Do you remember Game Crazy? It was a used video game shop owned by Movie Gallery. If you recall Game Crazy oftentimes being attached to a Hollywood video, that's because Movie Gallery owned Game Crazy and they bought Hollywood Video in 2005. Anyway, I have a vivid memory of walking into a Game Crazy one time in early 2006. I remember looking in the glass case up near the counter and seeing Marvel Nemesis, Rise of the Imperfects. Spider-Man and Iron Man were joined by some Frankenstein looking dude, a Batman / Scarecrow looking guy. Hey, I didn't know what was going on here, but I knew that it was cool. I had to have it. The employee behind the counter came over to see if I needed anything, and I said, yeah, that one, Marvel Nemesis. The guy looked at the game, he looked at me, he looked at the game, and he said, no. And I thought he was kidding. So I go, no, that one with Spider-Man on it. And he goes, no, you don't want that. And the rest of the story is just a blur. I have been confused about this ever since. Like, I think I walked out of there going, does that guy want the game for himself? And he just didn't want me to buy it? Or is that game just terrible and he was trying to help out some 15-year-old who could spend his money on something better? I had no idea. As you might imagine, that's what we're here today to find out. Strap in for a retrospective almost 20 years in the making. This is Marvel Nemesis, Rise of the Imperfects. Every video here on 616 Entertainment is made possible by my supporters over on Patreon. If you enjoyed the show here today, consider signing up. You'll get early access, exclusive videos and podcasts and more. Pro Wrestling Tees has the merch. As always, thank you for watching. Here's the thing. I wanted Marvel Nemesis Rise of the Imperfects based on box art. That's a common thing for me, specifically with Spider-Man games. I wanted all of these before I even knew what was what, just because the webhead was front and center. Man, that's some drawing power right there. In all actuality, I had no idea what this game was even about. I thought it was a fighting game, a 2D fighter specifically, like the old school days of Mortal Kombat. And it's not like that at all. Developed by Nihilistic Software, the team who brought us the well-received Vampire the Masquerade Redemption in 2000, and published by EA, Marvel Nemesis is not a 2D fighter like Mortal Kombat. It's a 3D fighter, like Power Stone. Or it feels like somebody looked at Power Stone and went, I want to make a game like that, but they didn't really have what it took to pull it off. This is where I have to come on camera and break the news that Marvel Nemesis, Rise of the Imperfects, sucks. Oh man, it sucks hard. Let's look at the story before we go anywhere else. There is a story mode, which I wasn't really expecting. Like I said, I thought this would just be a fighting game. The opening is very intriguing. News reports are coming in that something is going horribly wrong. We see Captain America, the Punisher, and even the Hulk blasted down by a mysterious invading force. This seems awesome, right? Yeah. But when the cutscene ends, the actual gameplay begins. At first, it doesn't seem too bad. Smashing the environment up as the Thing, you can pick up a car and throw it at an enemy. This is... okay, let's be patient. After finishing the first level as the Thing, now we can play stages as Wolverine as well, and this is one of the biggest problems with the story mode. Eventually, Elektra missions are there as well. Storm missions, Spider-Man missions, and we can play them in any order we want, and none of it lines up or makes any sense at all. As Elektra, we have to fight and defeat Daredevil, who is being controlled by the main bad guy. More on him in a second. So we beat Daredevil, we remove the gimmick from his neck, he's normal again, and a few missions later, we're playing as Daredevil, fighting the now evil Elektra? When did that happen? I did a whole set of missions as Storm, and then I'm playing as evil Wolverine, and holy shit, the finish is me killing Storm?
I tried to be nice.
What is going on? And you know what Wolverine does from here? How about nothing? Now let's pull out for a second and look at the overall plot. This is the main heel. His name is Niles Van Rokel. The characters on the cover, like the Frankenstein looking guy and this other... Man, he kind of looks like a Frankenstein creation too, doesn't he? These monsters are the Imperfects. We learn about them, I guess, through these live action cutscenes that feel like they're pulled straight from Twisted Metal.
And we became part of Rokel's most twisted experiments. Merging our body parts with huge cybernetic armored appendages. He fused our brains to an alien neural network. Upon his memories. And dark as demons became a waking nightmare. I became the ultimate warrior.
I say we learn about them, I guess, because as previously stated, these introductions can occur at seemingly any time. It depends on the order we play the stages in. And how about this character, Maya, or is her name Paragon? I have no idea. She seems like the most powerful being in the game, so I figured she would be the final boss. But then we see her breaking out of Van Rokel's captivity and we're dispatching enemies in the bad guy base? So is she a good guy? Again, no idea. I have never played a game on the PlayStation 2 that made me stop and go, what the fuck is going on? More than this one. I'm serious. These unlockable cards in the extras menu act as character bios, and this is where you really need to go in order to learn who the hell these new characters are. So how does the story end? Look, I'm always honest with you guys in these videos, and that's not going to stop now. I have no idea how this story ends. And that's not an insult about this game being incoherent. I'm saying I got to the last set of levels and I went, I don't care. I don't give the slightest hint of a shit about where this is going. The last thing I knew, I was playing as Magneto all of a sudden, still throwing tanks at the same bad guys from the start of the first level, dealing with the same annoying flying vehicle things, and I hated it. Is Magneto acting as a good guy, going against the forces of Niles Van Rokel? Stop me if you've heard this one before, but I don't know. I'm like 90% of the way through the story here, and I don't know or care what is happening at all. And it's not because I wasn't paying attention. I captured 5 full hours of gameplay from Marvel Nemesis over these last few days. I've been balls deep in this shit, and no, I was not enjoying myself for the vast majority of the experience. I could just look up the plot summary on Wikipedia, I guess. Fuck it, let's do that. Paragon eventually breaks free of the device's control and defeats Magneto. She realizes that she is not evil and plans to stop Rokel. Rokel reveals that he is an alien responsible for and will spread the invasion. Maya attacks Rokel and kills him by taking away his life force. She stops the invasion and she and the other Imperfects join to share the Earth with the heroes. That sounds terrible. That sounds like we don't learn anything about this main villain until the end of the game where he is immediately killed. So I wasn't an idiot for being lost. They legitimately did not explain anything until the very end. Yeah, I do not regret dropping the story mode. At all. It's worth mentioning that this video game was made alongside a series of comics written by Greg Pak, who you may know for his work on Batman Superman during the New 52 era. I mean, that's where I know him from. The covers of the Imperfects comics were done in part by Jay Lee, who provided the art for Greg Pak's Batman-Superman run. Apparently they enjoy working together. How about that? Have I read the Imperfects comics? Nope. There are only 6 issues, and according to my research, the Imperfects themselves, Johnny Ohm and Solara and Hazmat and everyone else, they have never, ever reappeared in any capacity. Even with the multiverse being as prominent and beaten into the ground as it is these days, there are billions and trillions of worlds and characters out there. None of these guys have ever shown their faces outside of this game. And I don't imagine they ever will. We focused on the story and the comic book series. I want to talk about the intricacies of the gameplay and some of the bigger issues at hand. Each character can get away with just mashing the square button ad nauseum, for the jobber enemies at least. Holding down the R1 button maps a special move to square and triangle. With Elektra and Spider-Man, the R1 modifier enables a ranged attack. Well, I guess that's most characters, actually. There's not a ton of variety to be seen. The circle button allows you to pick up an object and throw it. Your ability to pick up objects depends on your character's strength level. Not everybody can pick up a tank, you know? I was a little surprised that Wolverine could not throw a car, though. I'm much more of a DC guy than a Marvel guy, but I like Wolverine, and I was under the impression that he was pretty fucking strong. Marvel fans, let me know. Is this a screw-up? Or is he just not quite that powerful? I can tell you one thing, his finishing move is brutal. And there's the reveal, I guess. Every fighter has a fatality-style finishing move. They're not all deadly. Spider-Man's is as tame as something from Mortal Kombat vs. DC Universe.
You know what we call that? We call that a web-slinging ass-kicking.
Even Venom's is fairly bland. But there are a few definite murders here. Sometimes a body will burn to ash or melt to goop, and then they're just back in the next scene. Maybe the developers couldn't decide on the level of violence they were okay with. I don't know. There's no blood at all, not a single drop anywhere in the game. But there are plenty of frame rate drops, that's for sure. And let's dive into that. Holy shit, does this game struggle to operate at times. Aside from performance, there are some puzzling design decisions as well. Who the hell thought it was a good idea to completely white out the screen for nearly 2 full seconds every time we destroy one of these, whatever these are? There's a wall running mechanic that I think only Elektra has. This mechanic is required for traversing these gaps on the rooftops level, and this shit just does not work most of the time. If you fall even once, that's game over. Back to the beginning of the level to fight all of these assholes all over again, just to get to the jump and for the wall run to not do what it's supposed to do. This is one of those things that just makes you want to turn your PS2 off and walk away. There are fights where I just did not understand why I lost at all. Hitting your finisher is triggered by pressing R1 and circle when your enemy's health bar is in the danger zone. There were fights where I pressed those buttons 20 times in a row and it just wouldn't go, only for the AI to hit their finisher on me. Having to fly over this wall as Storm is dog shit, because flying eats up your special bar. You want to use as little of your special bar as possible so that you can hit your special moves in the following fight. This need to reserve your meter as much as possible leads to failing and having to do it over again. Oh my god, I hated this part. Human Torch, who should be so much fun to play as, is garbage. And it's not his fault as much as it is the level that he's stuck on. This is the most enemy-dense area in the whole game. We have to fight for nearly 10 minutes to get to this room, and once we're inside, there are explosives that can literally one-shot us. There are no one-shot deaths anywhere in this game other than this room, and it's all because of the explosions that trigger each other. They stack up and just completely wipe out a full health bar. Failure means we get sent back to the beginning of the level where we have to fight for 10 to 15 minutes again just for the chance to reach the one-shot room again. Oh my god. Graphically, I question how Marvel Nemesis ever got the go-ahead to hit store shelves. Look at this face, man. Look at it. Why is Daredevil's skin changing colors? Everyone looks so shiny, and I don't understand why. The detail of Spider-Man's suit being completely lost in the light is such a shame. At least his infected costume holds up a little better. And oh yeah, each fighter has two costumes. Their normal look and their infected look. Infected Venom looks great. Some of these are really cool, but it's easy to see where the laziness crept in. A good deal of these alternate attires are just tinted kind of sickly green, I guess. I don't know. And that's a bummer because it's not like there wasn't potential here. Back when I was a teenager and I wanted this game, I specifically had my eyes on the PSP version. I loved the PSP, and I was constantly looking for new games to play on the go. To this day, I have still never experienced the handheld version of Marvel Nemesis. But this gameplay I found from IGN makes it obvious how different it was. The colors alone are so much brighter. The characters look like their classic selves, rather than the dark and nasty Jay Lee iterations on the home console port. Maybe I would have enjoyed the PSP version if I had gotten it all those years ago, but that didn't happen. That Game Crazy guy certainly made sure of that. Marvel Nemesis Rise of the Imperfects released on the PlayStation 2, Xbox, GameCube, and handheld consoles like the PSP and Nintendo DS on September 20th, 2005. Critics were about as impressed as I am. It seems that everyone's in agreement when it comes to the roster. This lineup is really cool. The story had potential, and introducing new characters like this was a great way to make them matter. Hazmat beating Venom in his debut battle? That's how you establish a threat. But none of this mattered because the gameplay sucked. The story was a chore to get through, and the versus mode didn't offer much outside of tossing cars at your friends for an hour or so. There's a rumor out there that a sequel called Marvel Chaos was planned at one point, but with the poor reviews and sales figures of Marvel Nemesis, it was quietly killed before we ever even knew about it. Developer Nihilistic Software would go on to release games like Resistance: Burning Skies and Call of Duty Black Ops Declassified on the PlayStation Vita, both of which were terrible. Nihilistic went out of business in 2012. My takeaway from this experience brings me back to that Game Crazy in early 2006. I will forever wonder what could have been. What if a different employee had been working that day? An employee that simply grabbed the game out of the glass case and sold it to me. At 15 years old, would I have enjoyed Marvel Nemesis on my PSP? It's certainly possible, but I'll never really know. What I do know is this. Marvel Nemesis, Rise of the Imperfects, isn't what I'd hoped it would be. After nearly 20 years of looking at that box art going, man, I really have to check that out. It was always going to be tough to live up to the hype. But this was a level of disappointment that I wasn't really ready for. And that's a damn shame. So there it is, Dan Dans. That's my retrospective on Marvel Nemesis Rise of the Imperfects. Look, as 2024 winds down, I'm finding myself wishing that I had something else to work on. Oh wait, I do. Don't miss the history of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater Part 3. Welcome to my world, coming next week. I could really use your support over on Patreon or right here under a YouTube channel membership. Let's Play Friday airs every week. We are approaching 30 episodes this season. All of the uncensored stuff that I can't show here is over on Patreon. And starting January 6, 2025, you're going to get Monday Night Blitz 3 every week. It's handy dandy Andy Jarrett's last NFL contract. Can he bring his team to the Super Bowl? There's only one way to find out. Sign up if you want to check out those shows, because that's where they are. And I shouldn't say anything about this, but I just had a meeting last week about something that is very, very fucking cool, and I can't tell you anything about it right now, but it's one of the biggest goals I've ever had in my life, and it seems like it's going to be a reality. So until next time, I love ya, and I'll see you soon.